Hello, everyone. My name is Monica Gleiberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we have Steve Spingola from Cold Justice, who teams up occasionally with Kelly Siegler, who's a former Texas prosecutor, to review cold cases all over the country with hopes to solve it. So here to talk about what it's like being on the show and how they are able to solve some of their crimes, here's Steve Spingola. Okay, I'm so excited to speak with you. So obviously I've watched you on Cold Justice, but I also know a ton of your background and how many years that you've been doing this. And I have a little bit of a crime background myself. I'm a journalist, obviously, but I also studied and got my crime analysis or criminology degree. So I'm kind of like a nerd when it comes to these shows. So I'm super excited.
All women are interested in it. It's really interesting. Like I teach, and a lot of women are really interested in the true crime and whenever one of these women goes missing, I get all these emails from across the country from other women, call the
Oh,
cops and
really?
tell them to do this. And it is interesting.
I know. It's like, because I feel like it's very male dominated. And I feel like when the show first started, Kelly was very adamant about that. And it was very apparent because everywhere she was going, it was all men. And over the years, we have slowly started to see more women kind of infiltrate. So I don't know if it's something that, has opened doors over the years between what Kelly's done in the show, but it seems to have spotlighted and given us a chance to kind of step in and help out.
It is nice. And even in some of the places we now go, we have female chiefs of police for the first time that, in some of these smaller communities around the country. And we've got professors. I do a lot of teaching. And you're right, it has opened up a lot of doors. And I think that, I always say this, women are more analytical than men, and they're basically they're the better investigators. You go around the country and you see like law enforcement getting into trouble for fighting or something. It's never women. It's always, it's the men. You know what I'm saying? And it's just that I think they're a lot more quick to react with their testosterone and foolishness than the women are.
Yeah. Well, how did you? So I know it's obviously been a bunch of seasons, and you guys are celebrating your 100th episode, which was fantastic. I won't give too
Unbelievable.
much away about it, but I do want to talk to you about it. But how
Sure.
did you initially get involved with the show? Because I've seen you over the years, obviously on it, covering
So
different.
I had a website where I was just doing, a little bit of like the true crime, those types of things. I had a couple of open cases in Milwaukee and some of the other jurisdictions out here in Wisconsin, and I was working with our Department of Justice, just trying to gather, because a lot of these cold cases, I'm always getting called, and those are some of the toughest cases that we've ever had across the state of Wisconsin, where young girls go missing, they're pregnant. I mean, there's some unbelievable stories out there. And I just got a call one day from Cold Justice asking me if I wanted to do it. And I was a little bit hesitant at first. It was sort of like, I'm not a TV personality. I'm a cop. I just don't go out there and do this type of stuff. And believe this or not, to this day, I have never watched myself on television. That's the honest to God's truth.
Really?
Yeah,
You're
because it
so
becomes like entertainment. It's not like you're doing your job. I don't know how to explain it.
No, okay. No, that makes sense for you, like for your perspective. Because if you're watching
Right,
it, it seems a little more like entertainment-y than
right.
you just doing
And
your
then
job.
I've seen other people too. It's like, I shouldn't have worn that tie, or I shouldn't have said that. And and really, we are just sort of, we're more or less spontaneous when we go out there and do these shows. We really don't talk. I know that this may amaze you. I don't call Kelly. I don't call another investigator. All of a sudden we get there, and on the first day, we put together what we call a war room, and everybody's got notes, and we start just going in different directions and working on these cases. So everybody brings their own perspective to it. Before we get there, and then we kind of like take a look at notes and figure out what's the most logical, and if everybody's got the same ideas here.
So when you guys are in the car together, like discussing it, and usually you guys kind of
Right.
go over it. By the way, I do like the little joke. The only time you do come off funny is the jokes in the car. I love when she makes fun of you about
I don't know about that. I
Wisconsin.
don't even, sometimes they just come on. I don't even try to do it. It just happens,
But she's so funny because Kelly always gives you a hard time with your accent, and then anytime you deal with a case that was, in your turf, as she always says,
Right.
it's your people, and so you're really great to watch. It's very interesting to see how you kind of interact and your ideas of how you handle it, and whether you should confront someone or wait, or just like the decisions that you make. But So when you guys get into that car and you kind of go over a little bit of the case because you're introducing us as viewers to
Right,
what's going on, you meet the investigators that you're going to be working with, the cops, law enforcement, and there is that war room set up. So when you get to
right,
that point, you have the case already. Kelly has a case. So you guys have looked at it separately and now you're coming
right.
together to discuss it.
Right. Like I said, believe this or not, I don't call Kelly. I've got a case I'm working on now that should go sometime later this month. I haven't called Kelly or compared notes, or we just don't do that. I don't know. I want to get my own, feel for it, if that makes any sense. And then then when we get there, let's all compare notes and see if we're on the same track. And sometimes you wonder, how did we miss this, or how did law enforcement miss that initially? So it kind of just brings out your own, I guess, perspective of what happened here. And don't think we aren't sometimes, Kelly's got one of those strong personalities, and it's like, no, I don't think so, Kelly, but it's kind of interesting because she brings that prosecutorial mindset where I bring the investigative mindset, and it's kind of funny because so when we're out there, they send us a lawyer that's working with us and everything like that. And, and sometimes Kelly likes to push a little bit, and the other lawyers have to rein us both in. It's like, listen, let's not try that just yet. I'm not sure if the Constitution is quite set up to do something like that right now. But it is interesting when you work with somebody that has that mindset that she does, where she's prosecuted some of the worst people, and I mean, Texas, my God, they've got, capital punishment there. It's just incredible. Some of the people and the cases she's worked on too.
Yeah. I mean, and I love watching when you guys get into the war room, as they say, because
Right.
obviously there's all these folders laid out and you guys start going all over all of the information. But I always found it interesting because one of the biggest things I learned from the show, and obviously I ended up going in and studying, and getting a degree related to crime analysis, but like I found it very interesting about the circumstantial evidence, which I think is
Right.
a huge like
That's
misunderstanding
That's
for people.
basically all we do. And that's good that you bring that up, because even some of the DAs that we work with in those other counties are afraid of circumstantial evidence. It's like, you don't have any evidence. Well, yes, we do. It's circumstantial and it's still evidence. I know everybody wants the smoking gun or the confession or an eyewitness, but you take a look at all the murders in America, and I'll bet you 25% of the time is all you have actual eyewitnesses to the actual event. There's so many murders that are committed during the hours of darkness and things like that. Nobody really knows what happened. And I'm getting all these emails right now about this woman, this office manager that was found burned and murdered and hanging on to some tree in another state. I don't
God.
know. Yeah. And everybody's, wants to it's like they want to bounce their ideas. And I think some of them are good, but law enforcement, they kind of hold that information close to their vest. You really don't know what's going on, who they've talked to, the families, the boyfriend. You don't know what's going on. Does she have a secret life? And sometimes these cases really kind of get a little bit, I think the families are shocked to learn that their loved ones aren't exactly, what they thought they were.
Yeah, and when I loved in the beginning, and I think, obviously if you're a loyal watcher, you've kind of seen it over time, but I loved when Kelly used to do the pencil thing where she'd be like,
Right.
"You have one
Right.
piece, she would break it, and then she'd say, you have
Yep.
another piece, and she would break it, but then all together, you can't break it. Like it makes sense. And I never thought about that because you watch all these TV shows, right? And it's like, oh,
Right.
they got them. They got the weapon, the guy, the DNA, everything, and it's done. So when you hear circumstantial, you just assume, oh, they don't have a good case. And then when I watch
Right.
you guys, and then you see everything on the board, and you go over the whole thing at the end, to me, I'm like, oh my God, that's the guy. Like that's who did it. It's like it just kind of makes
It's
sense.
interesting. When you go and talk to like a suspect and you say, "Hey, Monica, we want to talk to you about that murder in 2003." It's like, who cares about that anymore? Right away, you can tell the people that, they don't want it reopened for some reason. And you can tell the people that are, oh, thank God, that was my cousin. We were so close. I really appreciate it. And they want to help. And so all of these little, I kind of call them like snowball tracks leading up to the giant snowman there are basically what we go out and take a look at. But you're right that circumstantial evidence, it's something I think that most people assume that is not enough to prosecute somebody to guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But I think they're wrong. I mean, we've got people that they take out, insurance policies. They tell their friends that they're about to kill their wife for this reason. They got a girlfriend on the side, and all of a sudden it happens and they don't want to cooperate. I mean, there's big red flags that pop up all over the place.
Yeah, and I mean, over the years, when I've seen you talk to some people, it's so apparent. I mean, there's some episodes where I'm like, wow, like I wonder if you were ever nervous because like you go up to them and you guys have had body cams in some episodes and just various things. And some of the people you're going up to are the ones that you're thinking did it. The evidence is showing that they probably did. And then when you're literally face to face with them, and some of them don't want to talk to you, some of them are aggressive.
Right,
I mean,
right.
so do you ever like feel nervous when you guys are doing that?
Sure, it's like one-on-one basketball. For some reason in America, when you go in front of a jury, the gold standard is a confession. And I'm telling you, to get a confession out of a person, it's almost impossible. And under these circumstances where somebody's gotten away with a crime for 5 or 10 or up to 30 years, why would they now start for the first time? Why would they decide to talk? What we hope for in a lot of these cases is that relationships with people that they had over the years have changed. In other words, they're loyal when the murder occurred in 2017, an
Right.
ex-girlfriend or a mother or father. But then all of a sudden, over the last 5 or 10 years, things have changed drastically. And you know what that guy said? You know what he did one time? And it's just amazing how people, and especially women, when women are spurned, I can't tell you how many times I've been at work. You laugh, and it's like
It's
domestic
true
violence. A
though.
woman will walk in with a black eye, and it'll be like, "Can we help you? You want to file a complaint?" And it's like, "No, I want to talk to a detective, and I know something you want to know." And I'm telling you, it's the best. I think it's one of the best sources of information when these guys, they suddenly turn on their girlfriends or something like that, because a lot of these women are not going to take it.
So do you feel, that it's a pro working on cold cases and the fact that you do have the advantage of the years, or is it a con because of the years? Because I've seen some
Yeah,
episodes where, you lose a lot of witnesses, it's hard to
we
find
do.
people
We
after
do.
a certain
And
period of
I
time.
think it's kind of I guess it's a mindset you go in there. It's difficult. You're right. We've been to police departments, and I'm watching what's going on right now in Florida, where their evidence rooms have been flooded and all of the evidence in these murders are gone. It's just, you're not going to get it back. And so when we go back, we just worked on a case a couple of weeks ago in Texas. It was an arson case, and they sent out some of the debris from a burned car, which a young female was found dead in. And they sent it to a lab, and what's supposed to happen is a lab sends it back to the police department so that in years, future years, they can retest it, because DNA and everything has changed, and they don't know what happened to the ashes that, from the car. So we cannot go back and retest it. And I often wonder, in a case like that, with the the advancements of DNA, touch DNA, what could we have gotten if we had it now? But I'll be honest with you, most of the murders we work on, and there's been one or two that I've talked to Abby about, or Kelly, that we think there may have been a serial killer. But the most of these, it's just within the family. It's with like a girlfriend or a boyfriend that does the murder, and so the DNA can be explained away because they've been consensually in the victim's house or the suspect's house or their cars. They've had sex over the past couple of years, so
Mhm.
that DNA really does not help us as much as a lot of people think it does.
With the 100th episode with Anita, what was it like working on that case in particular? Because it's such a young woman, such weird circumstances, and very rarely do you guys do a two-part episode because there's
Well, there
so much.
was a lot. Yeah, that two-part episode, there was a lot of things that were going on there. First of all, we landed, it was 11 degrees below zero. And half of the crew, I'm used to it, I'm from Wisconsin, half of the crew were like holding their faces and crying. They had never been to below zero temperatures, so you laugh. It was a week out there. But, I've got two daughters, and I'm sure your family may have felt the same way, Monica. They send you off to college, and here's a young girl, either living on campus or off campus. And, and Anita was not a high risk victim. She was working two jobs, wants to be an elementary school teacher. I mean, you couldn't have had a more pure victim. Sometimes I call it victim precipitated violence, where you've got victims that are out selling drugs and all kinds of interesting little
Right.
facts about them. But boy, Anita, she reminded me like of just, some of the worst cases I've ever worked, where somebody just goes out to work or to school and they wind up getting murdered. And it was a vicious murder. I don't think she died right away. There were stab wounds in her chest. She laid there for a day until her family were the ones that actually found her. And so to work a two-part, there were a lot of people that we had to go and talk to. And it'll become apparent as that show goes on who the suspect becomes. And the real thing is, a lot of times people think we have to prove motive. We really don't. and I don't know if we've established a motive in that case other than the person who did it, I know did it, if that makes any sense. But,
Right.
you would assume that there's jealousy and rage. And I don't know. I think sometimes people just kind of snap out for dumb reasons and kill somebody. And it's a sad state right now in America. You look at the number of murders across America, and I cannot believe how they've gone up exponentially since COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. I've looked into that too, and I guess it's because people are home. I don't know
That
what it
that
is.
is a good,
No.
people find out. I'm telling you that love hate is that close line. You know what I'm saying? All of
Yeah.
a sudden you're in a house with somebody, and I don't know, in Wisconsin here when it's 15 below, you are literally in that house with somebody for weeks. You know what I'm saying? It's you, the dog, and your significant other. And if something goes wrong, I'm not kidding you, that just festers and festers and festers because you can't go out and get away from it for a while.
Well, I want to ask you before we run out of time, what are you excited for fans to kind of see for the rest of the season? And then what are you doing outside of Cold Justice?
So I guess what I'm excited for the rest of the season is just what's been going on for the last, 6 seasons for me. I want the feedback, the criteria that we get from our viewers who are normally women who are into the true crime scenario. I want their input to the cases we don't solve. And it is interesting, you're always I guess your worst, you critique yourself and you look at what you didn't do. And sometimes people point out different things you do well or things you didn't do well. And I don't think that when people point things out we didn't do well, that we take that personally. It's something we try to improve on. And some of these cases, it's amazing how many people remember these cold cases from when they went to high school, or their cousin knew this victim or something, and they've all got these little snippets. And that's really interesting to know that in some of those communities, law enforcement has never forgotten those victims. We've never given up, but they can see sometimes how difficult these cases are to prosecute. And that's why they went cold initially. There just isn't enough to kind of push it over the goal line, as I say.
And
So,
really
I
quickly, do
guess
you
for the,
think, oh, sorry, I was just gonna add, do
go
you think
ahead.
that it helps in particular for this case, the whole crime podcast thing? Does that help
I
or
don't
hurt?
know. I get a lot of people who call up and they must read like two paragraphs in some local newspaper about a murder, and they come up with these theories, everything except Sasquatch dragged them into the woods and killed them. And everybody likes that sexy scenario where they're kidnapped, off the streets or something like that. My experience has been it's just the most simple solution right in front of you. You may not agree, but OJ killed his wife. It's right in front of you. Nobody wants to believe that. You know what I'm saying? And you take a look at those types of things, and who is going to benefit from this person being dead? And granted, we do have serial killers, or we do have, just like you said, I guess danger to the community in some of these incidents. But a lot of these cases, it's just, and I just did a case for Fatal Attraction, the Black Entertainment Network. I went down there and they just did nothing. They took one of our cases. They did nothing except domestic violence against African American women and how many have been killed. And I'm telling you, it's staggering. And these women have stayed with these guys after being beaten and shot and stabbed, and their kids have been abused. It's a dynamic that I still to this day have trouble understanding. And I get emails from people about that type. Should I stay with this guy? He said he's going to change. And it's like, honest to God, leopards aren't going to change their spots. It's just, I just hope it turns out well, but it really doesn't in a lot of cases like that. For the rest of the season, I just hope they enjoy the cases, and they sometimes send us different cases, or they sometimes send us different theories about these. And we do go back and look at some of the cases and send us any ideas that from a viewer, we send it back to the law enforcement agency that we've been involved with. So if we don't solve it, we still continue to work on it, and hopefully sometimes we just point it in the right direction and maybe kind of shake the tree. Like I said, sometimes even from people seeing these shows, it'll remind them. We've gotten calls about people that said, I didn't call back in 2005 when this happened, but now I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened. So I'm always interested in trying to find some of this stuff. And I don't know. It's just something that's in your DNA. You're either interested in it or you're not. And like I said, I find a lot of women who are very interested in crime and solving it because they're analytical. And I think that they're the caregivers in society that want to make life a little bit better. For me, when I'm not working on Cold Justice, I got a couple of dogs. One of them I just ran with. He's out like a light behind me here. He's like a big hairball, man. But I teach. I go to school yet, so I try to keep busy. And I take a look at a lot of the cold cases. I came home a couple of weeks ago, and it's kind of sad. There was a box on my front porch, and it was from a woman whose daughter's been missing since 2008. And long story short, she got involved with the wrong guy, and the last thing we know is she was from Wisconsin, and she wound up in Florida making X-rated, videos, movies, and just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. And she keeps asking me. She says, do you think she's alive? Do you think she'll call me? And the answer is no. It just ends one day. All of a sudden, everything just ends. Her car winds up someplace in Fort Myers. Nobody's seen her credit cards. Her check isn't picked up from work where she was working down there. Somebody killed her. And those people that put themselves in that high risk lifestyle, it's awfully difficult sometimes to figure out where the murder happened. And without a body, that's another one we work on. No body case homicides. Let me tell you, there are people that believe that those people are still alive, and they're not. How many women are going to disappear for 17 years without talking to their kids and didn't take a purse with them or any clothing, and that they're dead? But they hold out, and that's what bothers you. They hold out, and these kids keep expecting a Christmas gift or a card on their birthday, and it never comes because mom is dead.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. So, I mean, it's really great to hear your kind of take on it and all the work that you've done. I mean, over the 6 years, it's incredible the amount of stuff that you guys have done, captured, just nailed down certain things and even moved cases along. It's just super impressive. And I'm just floored by you because I just find you fascinating all the work that you do. But congratulations on the show. Congratulations on 100
Thank you.
episodes. And thank you for doing what you're doing year after year, season after season, helping all
Same,
these families.
same to you. A lot of people are just not the caring people. They just turn a blind eye and go on. And there's got to be somebody that keeps this going. And I think that's why we all do it. We hope that someday we can solve a case that maybe for a family that can provide some closure to them.
Thank you so much,
All
and
right,
have
all
a great rest
right.
of the day,
You
and I look
too.
forward
You
to
rock.
many more seasons with
All
you.
right. Take care of yourself. All right.
Thank you. You too. Have a great rest of the day.
Have a nice day.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Steve Spingola talk about his experience on Cold Justice. The show is currently airing now on Oxygen and is also available to stream on Discovery Plus, so make sure you check it out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.